What lies behind Jhin's mask, a brilliant virtuoso or a ruthless killer? For him, every death is art and every murder is a perfect performance. Today we'll explore who Jhin really is and why his name strikes fear throughout Ionia. Get yourself cozy in my tavern because we're about to begin. It is believed that Jhin spent most of his youth until the age of 20, that is, in the Ionian province of Jhin. Little is known about his family except that his father owned a martial arts school. Jhin himself was drawn to art from an early age, and this passion gradually grew into an obsession. Over time, he realized that true art could exist not only on canvas or in music, but also in the very act of murder. For a long time, Jhin preyed on farmers and random travelers, turning death into his grim craft. These were isolated incidents, but everything changed when he found himself at the temple of Koye, where he met a young, talented artist named Hui. A strange bond formed between them. Both saw the world through the prism of creativity, but on the eve of his departure, Jhin challenged Hui, saying he thought his work was superficial and lacked depth. With a heavy heart, Hui revealed his true art, dark, forbidden images that had been hidden in his soul for decades. Jhin was impressed by what he saw and said only one thing before leaving. Tomorrow he would go to see the lotuses bloom. At dawn, Hui woke in horror. 4 great historical paintings had been destroyed. The 4 masters who had once humiliated him in his youth were found dead, and the temple itself was engulfed in flames. After that night, fear reigned in southern Ionia. For many years, a terrifying monster that left dozens of corpses in its wake terrorized the inhabitants of the provinces of Jhin, Shanzan, and even Gore. He slaughtered entire villages, killed caravans, and disappeared without a trace. Militias combed the forests, the authorities hired demon hunters, and masters of the martial arts patrolled the roads, but nothing could stop his bloody arts. In desperation, the Council of Jhin turned to the great Master Kusho of the Kinku Order, guardian of the balance between the spirit and human worlds, famous for his ability to exorcise the demons. Kusho arrived in Jhin with his son Shen and his young apprentice Zed. They acted in secret so as not to alert the cunning killer. Visiting the families of the victims and investigating the scenes of the murders, Kusho searched for a connection between the crimes. Soon he realized that the one they called a monster was not a demon at all. It was a human being. For 4 long years, the Golden Demon evaded capture. His shadow loomed over Ionia, and his pursuers felt the weight of their futile search grow heavier. Master Kusho's fiery mane turned white. Shen lost his former lightness and became withdrawn. And Zed, the Order's most gifted student, began to struggle with his training. It seemed as if the demon himself knew of their hunt and took pleasure in their helplessness. And then, on the eve of the Spirit Blossom Festival in Xi'an Pass, Master Kusho disguised himself as a famous calligrapher and infiltrated the ranks of the invited artists. The trap was set. There, among the crowd of spectators, Zed and Shen came face to face with the one they had been pursuing for so many years. Kusho was right. The infamous Golden Demon was not a monster from legend, but merely a stagehand in a traveling theater in the province of Jhin. Following him, they tracked him to Xi'an Pass on the Gajian River. Here, a new idea emerged. Zed would act as bait. But when the young warrior was left alone, Jhin struck him on the back of the head, tied him up, and sat him on a chair facing the pier. Before Zed woke up, Jhin took the Kinku amulet from his neck and began to torture him, wanting to learn his secret. As soon as Zed admitted that the amulet allowed his allies to find him, Shen burst into the room and pinned Jhin against the wall. Then Zed revealed his plan. It was all a carefully laid trap. Grabbing Jin's 4th knife, he rushed to finish off the monster. But at the last moment, Master Kusho stopped him, deciding to let the killer live. Jhin was a man, not a demon, and for his crimes he had to go to the monastery prison in Tuula. Years of imprisonment did not change Jhin. He remained silent about his past, but in the monastery he proved himself a brilliant student. He mastered poetry, blacksmithing, and dancing. And yet the monks could not suppress his urge to kill. Meanwhile, dark clouds were gathering over Ionia. The invasion of Noxus brought chaos and division to the Kinku Order. Shen and Zed, once brothers in arms, became enemies due to their different views on war. When the flames of war died down, Jhin found himself free. He was released by none other than Master Kusho, the same man who had once imprisoned him. During the Noxian invasion, he staged his own death with Zed's help and became the leader of the Navari Brotherhood. Now, Kusho freed Jhin in order to terrorize Ionia and seize the power for himself. This time, the maniac had everything: weapons from Kashuri's arsenal and secret patrons willing to generously finance his bloody performances. Among them was the mysterious figure known only as the Maker, an extraordinary creator, the Maker, a legendary artisan, her art peerless, her execution flawless. It is a great honor to be in her presence, let alone wield an instrument of her making. Free, armed, and filled with a thirst for revenge, Jhin devised a new plan to take revenge on Shen and Zed. His first step was to send a messenger to Zed. On a boat decorated with one of his lanterns, the messenger arrived at the Tavern and delivered a message about a meeting with a quote-unquote rich man. As a sign of trust, he handed over a blade tuned to Zed's spirit, wrapped in red cloth. But soon the messenger, along with 3 other unfortunate souls, was found dead. Among the victims was a woman whose leg had once been amputated violently by Zed and Kusho during a long-ago hunt for Jhin. That is how Zed realized that Jhin was free again. Meanwhile, Akali, a former novice of the Order, learned of Zed's new crime, the murder of one of King Ku's elders, Alton's master and Shen's cousin. Without hesitation, she found Shen and told him the truth, suggesting that they join forces to find Zed. The next day, Shen, while dining at a tavern, accidentally encountered his old enemy. Their swords almost crossed, but Zed had come for something else. He told Shen that the Golden Demon had escaped. Despite their bloody past, they had to join forces to stop him. Shen reluctantly agreed. But all this time, Jhin was watching from the shadows. Disguised as a merchant, he left clues and evidence, leading them along as if following a carefully thought-out plan. He dreamed of seeing the 2 sworn enemies forced to work together, trapped in despair. For it was from this chaos that he intended to create his greatest masterpiece. One of Jin's most sophisticated traps was set in the village of Nanthi. Street lamps began to explode one after another, turning into deadly bombs, and each explosion claimed dozens of lives. Seeing this horror, Akali swore that she would kill Jhin. Deciding to act on her own, she learned that the killer was heading for Piltover and immediately set off for the city. But the next scene of the bloody spectacle was already waiting for her. Jhin planned to use Akali as a hostage to lure Shen and Zed into a trap as part of his plan for revenge. The trail led the girl to a theater where a carefully prepared act awaited her. There she became the 4th victim of his new creation. 3 Piltovans were already hanging from the Ionian trees, tied to mechanisms that fired harpoons. Akali barely managed to dodge the shots and hide in a smokescreen, but soon lost consciousness from the powerful shockwave caused by Jin's rifle shot. When Shen and Zed arrived at the scene, the killer had already tied Akali to a tree, just like the other unfortunate victims. And then when all the main actors were on stage, Jhin set the mechanisms in motion. The show began. A fight broke out. Shen was immobilized, but Zed threw a shuriken and freed Akali. Slipping out of the smoke, the girl rushed forward, knocking Jhin off his feet. She picked up his weapon, ready to finish him off, for Nanthi, for all the innocent lives, for the fear and blood. But Shen begged her to stop. Jhin was needed alive in Ionia. At the last moment, Zed intervened. He pushed Akali away and grabbed Jhin himself, demanding that he confess who had helped him escape. Jhin, as always, spoke in riddles, assuring Zed that he already knew the answer. In the end, Zed threw the prisoner at Shen and Akali's feet, then disappeared into the shadows. What happened next is unknown. Most likely, Jhin was imprisoned again, this time under stricter and stronger guard. And finally, let us pay attention to some interesting references hidden in Jin's lines. His phrases are not just words, but carefully selected quotes and allusions that turn each of his statements into a separate work of art.
It is by my will alone I set my mind in motion.
A direct quote from the cult classic Dune of 1984, spoken by the character Peter Devrier.
I will make you whole again.
This phrase is a reference to the phrase, "Make us whole again," from the Dead Space series of games.
I thought diamonds were a girl's best friend.
The line refers to the famous song Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, first performed by Carol Channing but made truly famous by Marilyn Monroe.
They're gonna live until they die.
A light-hearted play on words that references Frank Sinatra's song I'm Gonna Live Till I Die.
Kill Noxians and get paid for it? What's not to like? I like the way you die, boy.
Both quotes are sure to delight Tarantino fans. They are taken from the movie named Django Unchained. And that's where my story ends for now. If you also enjoyed this story, please like this video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for joining me and see you next time for a mug of the finest ale in all of Runeterra.